Hey all, Boardgamerants here, where you'll find everything solo tabletop gaming and more. Tainted Grail, Fall of Avalon, coming your way. Let's have a little look-see. And from a purely solo perspective, I'll let you know what I'm thinking on the other side. Here we go. So welcome to the Tainted Grail, the Fall of Avalon. I'm just going to give you a quick little overview here. Pretty spoiler-free, as long as you don't like zero in and pause and stop on stuff. But got it out here on the table. Really doesn't take too much room. You're going to be exploring this map made up of, it's literally a card board that you'll be creating and linking different cards to. So for instance, as maybe I'm exploring this way, I will be looking at this, will tell me what card to put over there, and this will make sure that I've linked the correct card over here. And you just kind of match up the numbers, and as you go, you can see the picture kind of develop from card to card, and creating this island of Avalon that we're exploring. And you got these huge guys right here. These are the menhirs. These, as you're exploring this island, kind of lift the fog of war, if you will, and they allow you to see what's around you. But it's kind of a timed thing, and each go round, you're going to be ticking this little timer down, and once it's out, then the menhir and it's revealing goes away, and certain cards get taken away. And unless you're down to your last menhir and it goes away, then something else happens. But in general, as you're exploring, this way or that way or that way, you'll find more of these, and you'll be able to activate them. And so you can look at the island, but only for so long, until their power goes out, and you have to either reignite them or let them go out, and you just kind of keep exploring a certain way. And in that way, sort of, the board's going to expand and contract in directions as you, there I am as I explore around. And so this is a very story-driven game. It's all in this journal, the exploration journal. This is a pretty thick journal too. We'll take a little look at that here in a second, but sort of a choose your own adventure style game. Of course, what good adventure game would this be if it didn't have a character that you can level up and add all sorts of stuff to? So here's my character, and I put some of these cards face down. These are, secret cards, and so I don't really want you to be able to see those. I'd rather you be able to reveal them on your own. But I've got items that she's found, and then on the sides here you can see there's empathy and caution and spirituality. This represents kind of my ability to negotiate and be diplomatic. And then you have a deck building game here as well, because this deck of cards here is something that I can level up as well, so that I can be more successful in my diplomacy encounters. And then over here on the other side of the board, we got aggression, courage, practicality. These are associated more with combat side of things, and combat has its own separate deck that, again, you can level up and add cards. You'll start off with some basic ones, and then you can add much stronger ones. And then each character, and there's 4 of them that come with the base game, has some a particular power that you can do, and then also kind of a handicap. You see the very basic premise here is that Avalon, of course, is falling into weirdness, and we the land sent out a group of heroes that disappeared. And so we're all that's left. So we're sort of not the best of heroes. We're just, what the land's got left to perhaps save it. And so in this particular character is traumatized. So there's this kind of a bad thing that she has to consider as she goes out and tries to save the land. She has a bit of a handicap there. And then here we'll be keeping track of food, wealth, reputation, experience, and magic. These little tracks keep track of your energy, which allows you to go out and explore and move around. Your health, of course, is, well, just your health. You don't want to lose all that. And then your terror, so you can kind of go insane as well. And this measures that track. There's usually this little guy right here, which you would use in place of your health. And then no markers on either the left side of it or right side of it, so not the energy nor the terror are really kind of allowed to go up over that, and if they do, there's kind of a penalty. But when you're playing solo, there's an option to play it on an easier level where you don't have to kind of have those restrictions. And so I've opted to play this. I played this a great number of times, and I'm just kind of enjoying the story right now. And so I'm playing it to where, like, my energy would normally not be able to go past my health level, but I'm playing it in a mode in which it is allowed. And over here, we've got these decks. So these decks are going to be your encounters, basically. Blue is, like always, diplomacy. You're always going to use your diplomacy deck over there that I just showed you. Green has to do with creatures that are perhaps going to get you food. Food's a very important resource here. At the end of every day, you got to make sure you got some food so you can rest up. And then you got gray encounters, which is its own set of things, and purple encounters, which is kind of their own theme of encounters as well. So you got a huge item deck there, of course, that allows you to find all sorts of goodies. And then we got these secret cards, which really only come out, I guess I should have that face down, which only come out when the stories call for it. And that's, again, what this is, and we'll look at that here in a second. But here are the decks. So here's the deck of cards that I would use to upgrade my diplomacy. And so the advanced pool. So whenever I level up my diplomacy deck, I take cards out of there, and I'm storing the cards that I've taken out of my deck. I'm storing them there. And for my combat cards, here's the same thing. This is the deck that I would pull from to upgrade my combat deck. You've got event cards here that you'll be adding. This game's played in chapters. I believe there's 15 chapters, and each chapter is kind of a game or a session, if you will. And so there's event cards that you're going to be flipping over at the start of each new day, and chapters that you'll go through. So every time you go through a chapter, you're going to have to grab another little chunk of cards, perhaps, to go to the next chapter, and it's going to have its own objectives and stuff. And then there, we've got once you level up your character to a certain point, and say once you have 2 cubes in empathy, then you can start growing off to the side here and adding cards that have that same symbol that give you extra powers and stuff. These themselves, when you have 2 cubes in caution or 2 cubes in spirituality, they allow you to be able to play certain things. Like this, to play Captivating Song here, I need to make sure to be able to do anything with empathy, I need to have at least 1 cube in empathy. And then there'll sometimes be other cards here where it will say, like this one, to be able to work off of empathize, I have to have both cubes. So you can see there's the two little signs there. So I'd have to have both cubes in empathy to be able to work off of this. And it's a very cool system how the combat and the diplomacy works, and I think I'll show you that a little bit more here in a second. But leveling up your characters pretty important, and you do that with the experience that you'll gain as you go out and adventure across the land. And so if I covered everything, here's my event deck. This is what I use I flip over each day, and it's given me some quests here to go after. And also here, these are cards that as you flip them over, certain things happen that either slow you down or sometimes they help you. And every day you're going to be flipping over a new event, having to deal with that. Here's this huge stack right here of all the cards that make up the land here. And of course, as you're venturing around, you're going to be having to go through this. I've got it all in numbered order here so that you can quickly find cards as you need them. Certain cards exit the game for good, and that's what that is over there. Let's talk a little bit about the combat system here real quick and the diplomacy. So let's say I were to have a green encounter. I would flip over this encounter, and then I would get to draw. Typically, you get to draw 3 cards here from the top of your deck, and you flip them over and you have a look. So, for instance, I've got a Bog Maiden here. What this is telling me is that I need to have 2 cubes of experience in my courage. That's what that symbol is. So it takes a lot of courage to go after the Bog Maiden. You can't have just 1 cube to be able to go after it. And then, or magic, that's what the little blue key means. And then every card has a free little on the bottom, and there's always this free key on the bottom which just says you get sometimes it's 1 times its benefit, or 2 or 3 times its benefit. Sometimes there's a red X in there saying you get no benefit for this free key. But you'll have to look at your cards, and you've got to kind of link up these keys to be able to have an effect. So if I want to be able to, in this case, draw a free card, I have to link this up. I'd have to make sure that I've got the 2 cubes in courage, and I do. So if I didn't, I wouldn't, anything that I linked to this would mean nothing, would not count for anything. Like this down here would normally link to practicality, but apparently practicality has nothing to do with, if you were practical, you wouldn't go after the Bog Maiden. But anyway, because there's no link there, I don't get that benefit. And again, playing Outsmart here doesn't allow me to link up to magic. And magic is a resource that you'd have to make sure that you have a cube over here to be able to activate. So if I wanted to activate a magic key, I'd have to be able to use one of my magics to do it. So so maybe that wouldn't be the best card, right? So let's see, what other card we got here. We got this one. That, I could link up the magic key there, but this just allows me to play more and more cards, more than 1 card. You can always play 1 card each round, but that doesn't allow me to really do a whole heck of a lot. What about this one? Linking up this. So yeah, this is pretty good one. Hex here. Doesn't I don't link up with the courage in any way, but if I were to use magic, I could do 2 damage. That's what these little red cubes essentially mean. I could do 2 cubes of damage, and then I linked up with a free key down here, +1. So that would be 3 damage on the Bog Maiden, and I would just probably set them right on top, or you can set them off to the side, however you like. There's also, with each of these creatures and whatnot, there can be things you have to slow. That's a particular trait of Bog Maiden, and then they'll get their chance to swipe back at you, and depending on how much damage you've done to them, you're gonna have to look at this little table. 0 to 4, she would do 2 damage to me, and I'd lose one of these cubes once the Bog Maiden got to hit back. And you kind of go back and forth and back and forth. I'll play some cards, then there's going to be the Bog Maiden will fight back. I'll play some cards and back and forth until hopefully I can get up to 15 cubes of damage on the Bog Maiden to take her out, and then I'd be able to get these rewards here at the bottom. And all these, work in a very similar fashion. All these different types of encounters, even diplomacy kind of has its own thing, except for with diplomacy, you're, instead of working with, again, aggression and courage and practicality, you're working with empathy, caution, and spirituality. And it's its own. Like if I look at some of these cards, they just, some different symbols there, but it looks very similar and plays very similarly. Let's have a quick look at the storybook. So the exploration journal is how basically the whole game is run. Essentially, you're gonna be going through here, and you're gonna go to the different, all these cards I was showing you the numbers before. All those numbers are associated with an area, and that area has its own section in the journal. And on the right side here, you can find things pretty easily if you're kind of trying to shuffle through and find a certain location. What you're gonna have to do is you explore the land, and then it's, as I mentioned, very much a choose your own adventure style thing. You can read, you're going to be reading through the flavor text. It's a great story, a lot of story in this game, and then you're going to have to make some choices here, and a lot of these choices are going to have to do with your ability, like up here, requires any part of the War for Avalon status. So a lot of times you're going to have to refer to your sheet here and check your statuses, and you're going to be checking off like Burning Mystery status and Cold Pyre status, and all the way to Scrounger and stuff. And as you do things in this book, it's going to ask you to cross off certain things that sort of unlock options for different locations in the game in the future. And so that's how kind of the story, you're going to be bouncing around trying to, I got to find enough clues about something in order to be able to go this route once I get to halfway, so you got to write down, you can write down some stuff. I haven't written down a bunch of stuff, but I know I want to return here, chapter 9 and stuff like that. And you've got another thing aside over here. If you ever save your game, you can write down all your notes and whatnot. But I haven't even tried saving this game yet. I've just had it out for quite some time, and I'm just playing chapter through chapter. And so that is just a quick run overview of and these kind of, just so you know, these are all fun things. You get to take these these little tokens, which are very difficult to read, but sometimes it'll tell you where to go by using these and turning a little skull thing to match. And then at the bottom of each turn is going to be a number, and you go to the back of this book, and you get into the BOS, the Book of Secrets, and you find the number associated with that entry in the Book of Secrets, and it has its own bunch of, so it's, you'll be bouncing around in this book quite a bit, but the pages turn pretty easy. It's on a nice spiral thing, and very, very well done, I should say. So that's about it. Now let's go ahead and talk a little bit about what I'm thinking for the Tainted Grail, the Fall of Avalon. Let's just cut to the chase, shall we? I love this game. I love this game. Awaken Realms is putting together games that, I mean, I haven't even played many of them. Well, there's not a whole bunch of Awaken Realm games, but the two that I played, Nemesis, was my fave of 2019. And now this, which, I mean, came out at the end of 2019, but a lot of people didn't get it. Okay, some people didn't get it until the beginning of 2020. So this game's got a lock on one of my spots in the top 10 of this year. I'm almost 100% sure. Can you be almost 100% sure? Anyway, it is just everything that I love in gaming as far as an adventure role-playing style game, and the way and its pace and everything, which I'll kind of go over. I mean, there's other games like it. There's other, of course, there's, you know, Gloomhaven would be the first one that you think of that has kind of persistent element, and you can build your character up. But maybe Folklore: The Affliction might be another. There's a lot of games. Descent, Journeys in Darkness, maybe, with its persistent campaign element. Then you've got a little card deck building sort of thing to it, like the living card games, Arkham Horror, or Lord of the Rings, perhaps. So it has all of these things that I enjoy in a persistent game. My biggest drawback with these campaign-style games is that I usually never finish them, and I can't say that I finished Tainted Grail either. But I can say that it has not left my table in about a month now. I've had it up. I've not saved it. It has a save feature that you can go from chapter to chapter, and I believe there's 15 chapters in this story of the Fall of Avalon, and I've not used it, so I can't comment on it. I don't know how cool or well it works. I know the Seventh Continent, which there are some parallels to be drawn here between the two, and how they kind of work with their sort of card world building thing they got going on for them. Seventh Continent put away swiftly, set up swiftly. I think there would be more to it, but this game doesn't take up a whole bunch of room on the table either. I mean, surprisingly, because it has a way of sort of expanding and contracting as things occur, and so the island, the portion that you're exploring, never gets out of hand. And I've had on this 4x6 foot table of mine, I've had huge games with Tainted Grail, on Mars, Nemesis, another Awaken Realms game, and among others. And it's just easy to just kind of keep on one end of the table, and it just keeps so well, and it looks great. I have had no desire, and because of course I've been enjoying the heck out of it. It's very thematic. It's got a wonderful story. I love. It's just this kind of dark fantasy thing, and I don't know, I guess it's kind of generic in that sense, but it's really well done, compared to, say, Gloomhaven. Its story is just kind of that feels much more generic to me than I mean, this has actually got a story. It's written in such a way that's very engaging, and there's a lot to it as well. I mean, you've got this huge tome, this journal that you're going through that's telling you where to go, and it's very much that choose your own adventure style of game where you just got so many options. There's tons of options, and there's ways that you can really focus on just the main story and try and get through all the chapters and complete the game. And then there's just a ton of side things to do as well. And so you could go through this game over and over and just have such a different experience and try different things, and which I've been doing. And I've only gotten, just because you do die. And especially when you're playing solo. And you can play true solo, you can play with 2 characters or more. I've only ever played true solo, and it works just fine. You can build your character up. There's kind of, you gotta have a diplomatic ability and a combat ability, and you have 2 decks associated with that. And the characters are toned to kind of go one direction or the other, kind of, sort of, or balance. And the character I'm playing now really starts off strong, diplomatic, so I've made her very strong. And so all the blue encounters, which are your I searched those out because I know she can talk her way out of anything. If you played Bjor, go maybe the other way and just beat the hell out of everything, and if they didn't want to be diplomatic, you just beat them up. And there's some drawbacks to that as well. But and it's nice to, there's some things that you can't just sweet talk and they're just gonna eat you. And so but you can make characters strong. You just it does kind of make you go one way or the other, because it gets really difficult to level up as you get higher up. It just takes a lot of experience points to go in one direction or the other. And so it does help you kind of make a choice there, and so, which makes sense. I mean, how perfect a character would it be if you could just sweet talk your way out of everything, and then if you couldn't, well, you could just destroy everything with your whatever. So it's great. It's got a nice balance to it in that way. Beautiful, dark fantasy story. The mechanics are not difficult to understand or put together in your head. You go through that rule book. It's not a very thick rule book, and after you're done with that rule book, it has these beautiful player aid cards, 3 of them. They're big and small print, double-sided, daunting, but you realize, it's everything you need after you've gone through the rule book and you pretty much understand everything. And it's not difficult to grasp. And once you start playing, it's just all kind of, you use these player aids, you just about never have to look back in that rule book again, and you pick up on it quick. I love it. And I love how that was done. I think it was very well done. Those player aids look scary, but yeah, they literally have everything on them that you need. And so the variability of this game, there's a story you're going to be following through, certainly, but again, there's just tons of different directions to go. And I think that, I could just see myself, if I had the time and the inclination, I think I'd love to go through this entire 15 chapters of game with each character individually and just feel how each one does it differently and enjoy the story over and over again. Because there's so much that, as you're going through, you're like, oh, when you die, you can go back to chapter 1 and start all over again. That's the way you're kind of designed to do it. But you can, just go back to the last chapter you died in and start over. I encourage you not to do that. I've always kind of gone back. And now, though, I'm playing kind of on an easier level so that I can just go through and meander through the story and just enjoy. And because it's just a great experience. And it's not a game that I feel like, I got to beat this thing. I got to get through this thing. I just love the whole act of playing it. And more so than other games that I've experienced like this, that I've kind of tired of or moved on before I've really gotten anywhere. This game has just kept me locked on. And the length of play, between sessions, if you consider a chapter a session, I'd say on average it's about an hour. And some are quicker than that, some are longer than that. But as you get to know the game too, I'm sure you can move a lot quicker through it. But you can stop at any time too. And if you leave it up on your table, it is one of those kind of games that you can just pull away from, come back to, and you can just pick up right where you left off. There's sort of a beginning of the day, and you do your stuff, end of the day, and then, you just stop anytime. And tomorrow, you pick up, and you won't even have to, okay, what was I doing? It just doesn't feel like that. So that's wonderful to be able to play a game that's so rich as you're playing it, and be able to walk away and come back and not feel like, I gotta kind of start over or reset. Okay, what was my strategy? No, you just get right back into that story. So this is another game that is going to be most likely in my top 10 of 2020. Nemesis, their game previous to this one, I think, was my favorite solo game of 2019. This, it's still way too early to tell. I've only played it here through February. It's very early in the year, but I do think it has, at least a guaranteed spot in my top 10 of the year. It's fantastic. Overall enjoyability, it's just one of the things that in this sort of adventure, I have a weakness for this. I have games coming up that I still need to get through. Sword of Sorcery, I haven't even opened yet. I want to try Mistfall. I have that. I've never completed Folklore. I've never completed Gloomhaven. I've just, all these games that I just never seem to get all the way through. Great intentions, and it's what I love. I like that persistent element. I like building up a character.
but I just can't seem to stick with it long enough to complete a game. This game, and I haven't done it yet. I've only got about halfway through, but it's just I still have no intention of putting it away anytime soon. So, extremely enjoyable. A game that stays up on my table for a month or longer, must be. And I think that's about it. That covers general thoughts and how I feel about this game, Tainted Grail, Fall of Avalon. It is going to be a gem in my collection, as Nemesis is and has been. And if you have any questions or concerns or any other thoughts about this game, please let me know down below. And until next time, I'm Boardgamerants, and I'm out. Hey all, Boardgamerants here, where you'll find everything solo, tabletop gaming, and more. And that's my cat. I guess the cat doesn't screw up things. You screw up everything. Don't pretend like you don't care.